You're going to love this episode because this week we're joined by Tara Bienvenu of TBE Leadership. I have known Tara for a long time. We've been personal friends, and she is a senior advisor with Company Growth Advisors. Today, as she works with leaders, she really empowers them to break through the things that are holding them back so they can thrive. You're going to love this episode. Here's Tara Bienvenu. Welcome to Lead, Grow, Live, where our goal is to help you lead your people, grow your company, and live your life. You have helped me go so far, so fast with Company Growth Advisors, and I'm so excited that you've joined us as a senior advisor of leadership, man. It is so wonderful.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here and to be a part of it.
If I'd ask you one question, how do you help companies grow?
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah.
That's a really big question. Gosh, and it's so different because growth can mean so many different things to different organizations. It can mean in people. It can mean in profits. It can mean in systems. So if I were to bottom line it, I would say that, my company is TBE Leadership, and the T stands for Thrive. The B is for Breakthrough, and the E is for Empower. I empower others to break through what's getting in their way so that they can thrive. Yep. And that's both individuals as well as organizations. And most of the time, organizations and individuals are really doing, or their intention is to do extraordinary things, right? And they may be really accomplishing things, and the difference between accomplishment and extraordinary, really what is in their way to go from where they are to where they desire and deserve to be. So
with breakthrough, you have to break through something that's in their way, right?
Yes.
What is the most common things in it? Let's just say the leader of a company, and then maybe we can go leadership team and some of the emerging leaders.
Yeah.
What's in the way of some of these folks that's slowing them down?
That's a great question. If I were to give you the top three, I would say, in no really particular order, one of them would be that leadership is lonely.
Yep.
They're doing it all on their own, so to speak. And not really, but yes and no, right? To be the one that everything begins and ends with, also depending upon the size of the organization, having a real safe space to go and rumble, to have a true neutral partner that you trust, that you can just throw everything that's in out and help navigate. Most of the times leaders know.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's so much noise to be able to have that affirmation and that sounding board and that direction and the clarity makes all the difference in the world to go further, faster. That would be one. Leadership is lonely. So having a sheer partner alongside to give them the clarity and the confidence. Two, I would say that, it's mindset. What got you here won't get you there. Also, I would say that in the mindset is also in I'm holding on to things. I was really good at the doing role. I was really good at making things happen in a different role. And now I need to achieve success through others. And so the mindset shift and the skill set shift that's involved with both of those, that would be a huge one as well.
Yep.
And the third one I would say, couples into that would be influence. How do I move influence from the doing again into the doing through others? And that can be mostly in the realm of communication and the being. Who do I be, and how do I communicate in such a way that I'm able to achieve through others, so that I can move into the true visionary of the organization.
Do you feel like this transformation from doing things myself to delegating and empowering other people to help me, contribute toward my vision, is it a process where they just have to just own it, or is it just one little step at a time? Yeah, I mean, how do you go about transforming a person? Because I agree, it's mindset, it's I have to own this role. Mm-hmm. I have to then communicate in a certain way. But How do you go about getting them to see, like, you got to shift gears?
It all starts with what is it that you actually want to achieve, and that you're not really getting, or you don't know how to get there. And oftentimes that for some they really know it. They know what they want, and they know they've been beating their head up against a ceiling or a wall or a barrier, and they're exhausted already, right? And something's got to change. Some know it. Some know that, if they're going to go to the next, that they know they're not going to be able to get there alone, and they know that I'm going to enroll a partner to actually be able to have this journey to be as smooth as it can be, and we can continue the momentum at a pace and a rate that is sustainable, right, for themselves, their organization, and those in their steed. Others, they don't have the clarity.
Yeah.
They have a knowing, but there's so much going on, which is very common. All three of these are very, very common. There's so much going on that it's like, I mean, help me. Like, I'm in quicksand, right? Like, and I can only kind of see what's in front of me to get done, right? So to speak. And they're doing it, and they're doing it, and they're doing it. Again, they all have their characteristics and their personalities to them. But that one, I would say, is often fraught with imposter syndrome as well.
For sure.
Because they're, as a leader, to be one of the most common unconscious tapes that run is, I can't be found out. I can't let people see me sweat, because then that would mean that I didn't earn the role, or I don't have a right to be in this role, or I'm not competent in this role. And as the leader, there's a quote unquote identity to be in that role, right?
Yep.
And so talk about, again, back to like lonely and like the stakes are high. I mean, that really threatens the psyche. And so all sorts of other stuff kind of really come into play with that. So my background with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, working with the unconscious mind, and barriers and patterns that are really kind of getting in the way, really how I'm wired and some of my superpowers with the depth of listening, and really engaging with, I think that really disarms and welcomes leaders in such a way to even explore and discover, where the heck am I, right? And even let's just say one of those three categories or themes, and then where do we go from there? I've said a lot, so let me pause on that one.
And what I keep hearing, and I have this belief that we can be incredibly confident in many different ways, but then when we transition into a new role, and we don't have that clarity, and the imposter syndrome kicks in, all of a sudden we're just so unconfident. So how do you help people? I just think it's, multiple steps, finding progress, celebrating.
Yeah, it is. So back to your original question with, is that like a BAM, like transformation, or is it really one step at a time? Most things, it is one step at a time. It's 1 degree at a time. And it's first identifying where you want to be. What's your vision of leadership? What impact do you want to have? What results do you want to have that you're either on, that you want to set the course for, or that is possible, and you're doing all the things that you know to do, and you're not getting it. You're not making the progress or creating momentum. I heard Amelia Earhart talk many years ago, and not the original Amelia Earhart, of course, but this Amelia Earhart is to a female pilot who holds a record of flying around the world. Her record is in a dual prop plane. And she was sharing at a conference that I had the opportunity to attend. She was sharing her lessons in her journey. And one of them was that one day she was headed due north. I don't remember exactly what the circumstances were, but I believe it was something of one of three things. It was either weather, mechanical, or they found out some more information along the path that somehow informed them that they now need to be headed due south. And she said, if we were to have, it was only her and a mechanical engineer on their routes, okay? And they were on a path around the world for this record. And she said, once we received the information or the awareness that we were headed due north and we needed to be headed due south, she said, had we taken the aircraft and in one fell swoop turned it due south, it would have been catastrophic. And the point that she made in this, She said, so what we decided to do, right, was so that it wasn't catastrophic, was we began to turn the aircraft 1 degree at a time. 1 degree at a time. And before we knew it, we were 15 degrees, or 45 degrees. And before you knew it, we were 90 degrees, right? And we were right where we needed to be. And she said, but most of us, as human behavior, we identify that we're headed due north and we need to be headed due south, right? So I am now the president and CEO, and I need to lead differently. So now I need to delegate and leverage and do all these things. I now know this. And so to do that in one fell swoop, again, could be catastrophic, right?
Yep.
And so we underestimate this 1 degree at a time. And not only do we underestimate it, we tend to fall into the illusion that because I know it, therefore it is so.
Yeah.
And that's just an illusion. One of my favorite metaphors for that is what most of us know. Most of us know that if I pick up a weight and I put it in my hand and I do this over and over again, that over time, I'm going to get what? What's the result that I can expect?
Stronger.
A muscle. And particularly with that particular motion, I'm going to build up this bicep, right? Well, just because I know it doesn't mean that I'm going to actually have a strong bicep right there. I still actually have to pick it up.
Yeah.
And even more, just because I pick it up one day and do 5 reps still doesn't mean that I'm going to have a strong bicep. I actually have to do it over time before I actually get the result. And those are 2 great metaphors to point us into, we have a lot of knowledge and we have Google. My gosh, we now have AI, that our access to knowledge is more abundant than ever. That's not the issue.
Yep.
It's now that there's too much to know. We'll never know it all. It's what specific knowledge is going to have me put into application that is actually going to get me the desired results that I actually want. And we first got to start with what is it that you actually want? We got to have the clarity of that. Yeah. And why it matters.
Yeah.
Why it matters.
And I think understanding a baseline, like this is where I am. So this is what I want.
Absolutely.
This is where I am. And here's the plan that I will put in. And if we execute and then find, you're going to have, like you said earlier today, we have to start knowing this is where we want to go and then get there. You're going to have things that are going to move you off course, things that you do. But if you adjust and you celebrate victories and you continue making adjustments and you get further down there, that's where I think confidence, capability, and conviction really come in. Yeah. Like, man, I have a vehicle to do what I want to do. Yeah. And that's where that confidence comes in.
Yeah. Most leaders have confidence because they are action oriented. And when you're action oriented and then you see the results of your actions, it creates momentum, which then affirms your confidence to keep you moving forward, right?
Yep.
So one of the greatest blows to confidence is when I'm taking action, right? And I'm not getting the results that I think I should be getting. And then I keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. That's really more of a ceiling of achievement. And now I don't know what to do. And that along with indecision are some of the greatest roadblocks.
No doubt.
Again, now you start to circle a lot of the same recipes of leadership being lonely and where do I go, because who do I go to and say I got here because of what I was able to do and know, but now it won't get me there. That's and right. Now who do I go to now that I'm here that is safe, that, is there a peer? Is there a colleague? Is there a mentor? Is there a coach? Is there someone that's going to help me not only get myself to next, but be able to bring my people and my organization to next as well.
And I wanted to get to that. So what happens when you work with a leader? And let's say he or she is the CEO of a company, and then they have to instill the same type of things throughout the company because you can't do it by yourself, right? You need to delegate, you need to count on people. Do you help with tools and resources to gain their knowledge and experience into developing these other folks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, I tell most leaders at the top, especially, right? If we're not developing your next level, right, then now you own their development.
That's right.
And so if who are you going to or engaging with for developing yours? And then who have you enrolled in developing them? Jeff, you and I both have teenagers. Some of yours are a little older now. And the young,
I have one more teenager.
One more teenager.
Technical
That's wild, right?
Yeah, it's insane.
We can both appreciate this. For those in the audience, maybe you've raised teenagers, maybe you have them now, and if neither of the case are true, I'm sure we were all once a teenager. So you can find yourself in this storyline, I guess, or metaphor, is that there comes a point in the teenage years where you can no longer hear your parents.
Yeah.
Even when they're talking, right? Which sounds like the teacher on the Charlie Brown, right? And if you've been a if you've been a parent of a teenager, there's nothing more frustrating, right? Because you move from the manager of their lives really to the coach role of their lives, right? Which telling them what to do and when to do it and how to do it is really no longer effective as the manager, right? And so you got to move to the coach, where you're giving them guidance and consulting them and more mentoring them. And that's not always easy as a parent, because your role changes, much like leadership. And really to enroll other people that they can hear. So if it's teachers, or if it's close friends or other relatives, or coaches if they're into extracurricular activities, maybe it's someone in their spiritual realm at their churches or things of that nature. But it becomes more important to identify people that you trust, that what they're saying, your kids can hear it, and it's the messaging that you want your kids to hear. Yeah. Well, it's a different audience, but the structure is really not that different in an organization. So you want to arm, as a leader, your next level, right? If they can't hear you in the same way, who are you putting them in front of so that they can actually hear and get their skills developed,
yeah,
right?
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Before I sold my last company, I coined this little stupid phrase, like, I say 7 and they hear 54.
Yeah.
And I would bring in a consultant to say 7 and they'd hear 7, right? Mm-hmm. Just because it's a different person.
It is.
At some point, regardless of your leadership skills or how much they appreciate you, they can only see your vision mm-hmm. from their own perspective.
Yep.
And I love, though, that you include that, because obviously with Company Growth Advisors, we do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's just wildly important. As people grow, companies grow.
Yep.
So,
yep.
So how did you come to learn all this? And I know you have a lot of experience, and I've known you for years, mm-hmm. but you have both developed professionally and personally, and it's been amazing to watch you. How do you feel like God puts you in position to become who you have become?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
That's a big question. Have you ever seen that that visual where it's like my plan and then like God's plan, and it's like it kind of takes you all over the dips, and the journey is nothing like what you thought it would be? I think for many of us, myself included, that's definitely the course. When I look back, I think the one constant has been my insatiable appetite to find my own greatness, right? Like I as far back as I can remember, even like a little girl, there was a lot of chaos in my formative years in my family of origin. And so I think I kept going like this, it doesn't need to be like this, right? And somehow in my spirit, I just continued to always look for the goodness, for the blessing, and for people's greatness, right? Like I would, circumstances were what they were, but that didn't mean that people were inherently bad, right? And so as I continued to grow up and was exposed to opportunities to learn personally and develop personally. That just set me on a trajectory of self-development and self-improvement, which then would have it that I landed in human resources, which is people development, and in wonderful organizations that it mattered. I like to say I happened to be in the right place at the right time professionally. I was not the one who graduated high school and knew I wanted to be X and then went on the path and, set my sight on it and it went. I went into college with, you had to get a degree because that was to get a decent job. Yeah. That's what you did at the time, and was on the 6-year path. And
you were flying past me.
I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I got a student loan balance one day and went to the counselor and said, "What is the quickest way out of here with a degree so that I could get that?" So a bachelor's in general studies a couple of years after that conversation. And landed in human resources, and was great for me. Yeah. It was all about people and processes and making a difference. Through that journey, I found leadership development and change management within an organization. I got my coaching certification through that role. Began coaching executives internally in a publicly traded transportation company, a global organization, and was exposed to a lot. Yeah. We had unions in the organization, so union negotiations. I mean, just all sorts of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it was a lot of training. Like, it was on the job, in the experience, in the trenches, with a lot of different. We did mergers and acquisitions. I mean, I really cut my teeth on a whole lot in that corporate space. I was traveling worldwide about 50% of the time. Our daughters were really young. I loved everything about everything that I did, with one caveat, that it felt like the tension between being the mom that I wanted and the work that I wanted were at an absolute conflict, particularly with regard to the travel. Mm-hmm. And so the decision was easy. The transition was not. And so I had really, at that point in my career, got really clear that leadership development was my jam. That leadership, both personally and professionally, was what I was about. That leadership was about taking responsibility for your world, however you defined your world. And so that was a fork in the road, or a pinnacle, if you will, because my world was about having my family life and my career life have coherence. Yeah. That they were, and they didn't. And so while I loved my organization and everything that I did, that the circumstances that were required didn't offer the coherence that my vision for what I wanted in my family did. That's common. That's common both for females as well as males, yep. Especially in this day and age. Our work environments offer us much more flexibility, and yet they don't, because they're driving us. Tend to be like 24/7. So even where it seems like there's more flexibility and you're not having to be in the office from 8 to 5, and some of these, from an energetic standpoint, they can be much more draining at these times. I didn't know at the time that when I left my corporate world and hung a shingle, if you will, and began coaching and consulting on my own, that it would bring me into not only my own entrepreneurial space, but really into a space of leading entrepreneurs, and going into a CEO of a real estate brokerage, where leading a team of professionals, but also an office with over 400 realtors, individual businesses. And so, driving culture and change and value of a business as a leader, where there's a 1099. Like, these people choose to be, like, they could leave the next day and go put their join their businesses to another brokerage. That was just a different animal. And so being in that space for nearly a decade, and then coaching in that space, both leaders and big business owners, big solopreneurs, those two combined now, having been more business agnostic now for several years, both the corporate space as well as the entrepreneurial space have positioned me, I find, in a very unique listening to service clients, no matter what angle they're coming in from.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. We've kind of talked about how you lead your people, you know what I mean? And you gained a ton of experience there. And then I want to talk about TBE, though. Tell me how you serve your clients and who your clients are.
Yeah. Thank you for asking, Jeff. I tend to be a magnet to three primary audiences. One of them being accomplished executives who want and deserve to become extraordinary leaders. The second audience would be sales professionals. And the third audience is badass women. And those really are my three primary audiences that really fall into really kind of three primary offerings. One of them being one-on-one executive and neuroperformance coaching. Another one being training, facilitation. That could be in whether it be a leadership team in mission, vision, values, whether it be original creation or refinement. That could be in breakout sessions at a conference. That could be in culture and moving it to the next level. That could be a whole host of things. Effective communication. It could be teamifying things. I just came back from a conference where we did a breakout with the team there on what got you here won't get you there. And then I also worked with those employees in that organization on moving from me, we to us. Really looking at what's going on in an organization, what it is that you want, whether it's with an executive team or otherwise. And then lastly would be in speaking engagements.
And with the women, the badass women, right? How do you work with them? Same offerings?
Same three offerings.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it.
Same three offerings. Yep.
Do you ever find a badass woman who wants to be a great leader and needs to lead people?
All the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, I often find that the one-on-one clients, whether they are a sales professional, an accomplished executive wanting to become an extraordinary leader, or a badass woman, could be all three of them, right?
Correct.
Or,
yeah.
The one-on-one client could be all three of them, so on. The one-on-ones will end up utilizing the other two lanes, or the other two lanes will end up in the one-on-one lane. So it really depends again on what's the problem. What is the perceived problem that we're looking to solve, or the desire that we're looking to achieve? So, yeah.
I love it. So along your journey, and we talked about how this journey can be long and we have no idea. We look back and we kind of figure out this is why we were doing it. So sort of moving to live your life. Like, you've gotten here and this, I trust and I know this is where you're supposed to be. How is it impacting your life now? And are you finding that congruence and that balance, if there ever was a such thing, now that you're in this world and you're leading people?
Yes, I'll say that I also had, looking back, right, hindsight's a beautiful thing. I had congruence at other times in the other roles that I've had as well, right? So to keep in mind that, nothing is static. Someone, and forgive me, I'm not going to be able to quote their name exactly here, but has identified that the rate and pace of change in our world, if you look at it from like an X and Y axis, the pace of that is outpacing our human ability to adapt. Yeah. That research is showing. And, when I share that, Jeff, what you just, most 90% of the people, their heads just nod, or you get some level of affirmation that you can identify with that, right? I frame that first because there's an internal illusion, right? That's like, oh, I'm just going to get there and then, right? Like, kind of check the internal speak that runs on autopilot that, oh, when I have this, when I achieve that, then what, right? Like, I'm aiming for balance, like it's some sort of, I get there and then it's going to stay that way. And nothing ever does. Yep. My approach is whole person and or whole organization. And so we're looking at it from a whole system, right? Like, because if I say I want this, And then we go down the path to achieve it. Well, what's the impact going to be on these other things, right? If I want to achieve this in my career, well, what impact is that going to have on the other things that I say matter? Or, like one of the things that I look at with lots of executives is their health. If you don't have your health, the day that your health fails you, it will hijack everything else that you say matters. And so this career, this organization, these people that you lead are now, your health is now priority. And so you're not able to lead them. Correct. Your organization is not able to run on its without you. Well, it has to now if your health is not there, right? Same thing with, most people, it's not uncommon for high achieving, driven individuals who are leaders and are in high profile roles that their focus on their career and their businesses, they have regrets, they have guilt for that it took away from their families, yep. Right? That's not a judgment. That's a call out for it is what it is and a reality. Yep. And the longer we deny that reality, right, that impacts who you are and how you show up as a leader, the businesses that you run, the people that are in your steed. More than anything, it impacts the people that you say and claim to love the most. And so what do you do to right size that? So if all the focus is on these results and business, career, we're looking at that coherence. And again, this can't stop while you focus on those, right? And that's one of the most high achieving leaders are generally willing, but they're not willing at the expense of this. Does that make sense? And they don't know, and they don't know how, or they haven't met a person or a resource that can show them the way and that can partner alongside them so that they can achieve both, right? Because all the things in the health and their family and their life has become dependent upon the outcome and the results of the career or the business, right? So it's a both and. And so how do we look for, well, what does it look like for all of it to work together so that you get what you want? And that is a step-by-step process. Yeah. It is.
It's you.
And I will say this as well, because people go, oh my gosh, it's step-by-step. I don't have the bandwidth to add on this one step-by-step. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Yeah. When you get the clarity and you can begin identifying what it is that's actually going to have you create momentum to what it is that you say that you want for all of that coherence. That's the difference, right? It's not all the things at once. It's one thing at a time. It's slowing down just enough for a slight period of time to identify it with a trusted partner so that you can actually create the momentum going forward.
Yeah. Then the ball starts rolling.
And the ball starts rolling.
That's right.
And momentum works both ways, right?
Yeah, sure.
It works two ways. It works up and it works down, and you want the up. Yeah. That's right. You want the up. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this has been a lot. But the truth of the matter is, it's whether you're working with a leader or you're talking with just somebody who needs help, they need to find some sort of balance, and they need to focus on their business, their life, and just keep rolling.
Yeah.
And you really know how to guide people in that direction.
Thank you, Jeff.
So
thank you.
Thanks for being a part of this again.
Thank you. It's a privilege. I get to get up every single day and live out who I was created to be and the gifts that I was created to. There's no better privilege than to be in that place to live out who you're created to be. So I love helping others refine theirs, right? Reconnect to theirs and their own greatness, and then live a life where they can thrive.